Georgia's been racking up some all-conference and some all-American awards this season. We know about Jalen Walker and the Buckets. Let's talk about the All-Americans. Couple of repeaters and a couple of newbies when it comes to the All-Americas list. Malachi Starks is a repeater. He's a returning customer. And so is Tate Ratledge. Malachi Starks, the safety for Georgia. Tate Ratledge, the offensive guard, offensive lineman. He's basically the third-string center as well for the Georgia Bulldogs. They're two-time All-Americans, and that's a pretty big deal. Last year, Starks made the first team, and Ratledge made the second team. This season, it's a little bit different. So let's talk about it. Let's get into this list. Dylan Fairchild, Brett Thorson, the punter, Dylan Fairchild, offensive lineman, and Malachi Starks, they were named second-team All-Americans. No first-team All-Americans for the Georgia Bulldogs. And then offensive lineman Tate Ratledge and linebacker Jalen Walker made the third team. So the Butkus Award winner, Jalen Walker, voted as the best linebacker in college football in 2024. He was only a third-team selection. Could be the numbers, but when you look around at who the other guys were, his numbers are pretty good. And I'll talk about some of these guys' numbers. But just looking through this All-America list, you go through the first-team offense, you've got Xavier Restrepo from – there's not going to be any wide receiver from Georgia. But just to give you an idea of who the players were, and I'll show you who these Georgia players fit in with. And I'll actually just pull it up for you guys. This is the Dawg Post website, so make sure you're going to check it out. You see that those first-teamers, right, running backs, they got it right with those two in Cam Scattaboo and Ashton Genty. Quarterback ended up being Cam Ward, right? So not Carson Beck. I don't know that Carson Beck should have been an All-American. I think the turnovers in the middle of the year was just too much. But no offensive lineman All-Americans for Georgia. No first-team All-Americans for Georgia. These were the guys that were first-teamers. You see guys like Caleb Downs being a first-teamer. Xavier Watts from Notre Dame being a first-teamer as safeties. Jahdae Barron, corner for Texas. Travis Hunter, corner for Colorado, right? And you're seeing a lot of guys from the state of Georgia on this list. But then you go to the second team. That's where you start to find the Georgia Bulldogs football players. You got Dylan Fairchild. He is a second-team offensive lineman. You see Donovan Jackson's a guy who's been starting a few years now for Ohio State. He was one of those guys. Tyler Booker, Alabama. This is the company that they're in. Seth McLaughlin, I don't know how you say his name. But this is the guy that Alabama ran out of town last season, and he ended up transferring. Tight end, Tyler Warren, definitely one of the best tight ends in college football. You got quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, ends up being the second-team All-American. I thought, hey, listen, I don't know what these kickers' numbers are. I'd have to look it up. But Peyton Woodring, I believe, has made 67 out of 69 kicks this season. He's missed 2 field goals. He's nailed all of his extra points. He's a guy that I thought potentially could have been an All-American. Second-team defense, Malachi Starks makes it. Second team, this is not defense, special teams. Punter Brett Thorson makes it. Thorson will be out for the season. He hurt his knee in that SEC championship game when he was trying to make a tackle on a punt that was getting returned on him. And we saw a few weeks ago he can do that. He can do that. I believe it was against Georgia Tech where he laid a guy out. He tries to do it again. He ends up hurting his knee. But Malachi Starks, second-teamer. Guys like Anthony Hill Jr. You're seeing a lot of NFL names on this list. Omarion Hampton, North Carolina. That's second-team running back. Caleb Johnson. Like, this running back class is going to be special. But let's get into this again. Third-team offense. You see Tate Ratledge on there. Tate Ratledge making this list for the second time. This time, obviously, third team, and he was second team last year. But he's making this list for the second time after he missed some games due to injury. He still makes this list. It shows you how much of an impact people think that he, not just think, but know that he makes for Georgia's offensive line. Georgia's run game, and it's struggled this season. And I think having guys in and out of the lineup has not helped, and it doesn't. They like to rotate, and rotating becomes more difficult when you're missing a couple of your players. You saw Georgia struggle to run the ball this season, and they struggled more when Tate Ratledge was not in the lineup. Dylan Sampson, running back for Tennessee, certainly worthy of this selection. Third-team defense, that's when you see Jalen Walker. And that's the one where it's like, okay, he should have been at least second team, right? For the impact that he's had for Georgia, the way he just wrecked multiple games. But you see two other Georgia guys with Barrett Carter and Chris Paul Jr., right? That's the company that Jalen Walker's in. Those guys are all NFL linebackers right there on that list. A lot of Ohio State guys, a handful of Ohio State guys made this list. But that's kind of what you're getting out of the All-Americans for Georgia this season. Obviously, Brock Bowers was an All-American the last couple of years for Georgia. But you get repeat offenders with Malachi Starks and Tate Ratledge. Let's go over to the three guys that made the All-SEC first-team list. It was KJ Bolden, the safety, 5-star safety. You got 5-star. I'm trying to get it back on me. You got 5-star linebacker Chris Cole, who made the list. This is the All-SEC freshman team, so I'm moving on to the All-SEC freshman team. And running back Nate Frazier made this list. I want to go through and look at it, and let's talk about the impact that those guys had. And let's look at this SEC freshman team, because I think this is fun. This is fun. Lenore Sellers, you got to give it to him. He's a redshirt freshman, but man, that guy really, really ran wild. And you watch that Clemson game and you see that guy can take over a game with his legs. Nate Frazier, one of the running backs, I mean, this list, when you see that asterisk, it means they tied. So they thought Frazier and I don't know how to say his name. They tied with Caden Durham. I think Caden Durham is very good as well. I just wanted to put that out there. I don't know who else they would have picked than those two. When it comes to wide receivers, it's got to be Ryan Williams and Cam Coleman, 5 stars from Alabama. They go, they're ridiculous, right? And Ryan Williams especially is ridiculous. You move on to the defense, Dylan Stewart, stud, and then you see these linebackers. DeMarcus Riddick, 5-star linebacker, made headlines for talking about how he's faster than Jalen Milroe ahead of that rivalry week and how he wasn't worried about him. But Chris Cole, why did he make an impact this season? He made an impact because Smile Mondon was hurt, and Georgia likes to rotate guys at that middle linebacker position. Their main starters, Smile Mondon and C.J. Allen. Raylan Wilson right there with them. Chris Cole is 4th on the depth chart. He earned that spot this year for Georgia over fellow 5-stars like Justin Williams, over guys that are older than him. They thought Chris Cole was better. He became a rotational linebacker for them. He played a lot when Smile Mondon was not out there because he was in the rotation. He scored a touchdown on defense. He certainly made an impact for the Georgia Bulldogs this season. I skipped over talking about Nate Frazier's impact. I'll get back to that in a second. We'll round it out with Nate Frazier's impact. KJ Bolden, Boo Carter, Xavier Brown. These are good defensive backs, and these guys are going to be names that you hear a lot about over the next few years. But man, with KJ, this is a guy that was a 5-star. This is a guy that Georgia wanted very badly, and a guy that you weren't sure if they were going to get him. You just weren't sure. His commitment, his recruitment was one that was a little dramatic. Looks like he's going to Florida State. He flips last second and goes to Georgia after Dylan Raiola flips. So maybe there's a little bit of money involved in that. We'll see. But Bolden, a special talent. He played wide receiver in high school as well. His senior year, he caught 30 passes, 14 of them being touchdowns. But on the collegiate level, immediately, he was out there. Georgia missing a defensive back. I believe it was Janelle Guerrero that they were missing in that original game, in that opening game against Clemson. So he gets out there and he shows that he's a stud immediately. He shows the speed, he shows the instincts, he shows the athletic ability, and he has been in that starting rotation for Georgia's defensive back room the entire season, kind of like Malachi Starks was in 2022. It can happen if you're ready. I believe Lewisine, Richard LeCount, those guys, they got playing time as freshmen. They always need good DBs, and if you're good, you're going to play immediately at Georgia. Nate Frazier, the running back, leading Georgia I don't think he's leading Georgia in touchdowns anymore. That's Trevor Etienne now after his 2-touchdown game against Texas, after he had a 3-touchdown game earlier in the year. But Frazier, this is a true freshman, borderline 5-star running back, electric out of California. He comes to Georgia. Trevor Etienne, he's a transfer. Georgia's kind of got a new running back room this season. You got the Robinsons who are dealing with injuries. You got Etienne coming in from Florida, and you got Nate Frazier, and you got Cash Jones. What happens? Etienne is supposed to be the guy, and he has been the guy, the lead back. I say the lead back, and he's suspended, right, because of what's going on off the field. So he doesn't play against Clemson. Frazier, from the jump, makes an impact, makes a couple of nice plays, runs for a touchdown, flashes the ability from the jump. And he ends up having to be Georgia's lead back in a lot of these games because Etienne dealt with a rib injury off and on during the second half of the season. So you saw a lot of Nate Frazier. You saw a lot of excitement. You saw a guy that really loves being a Georgia Bulldog, and that's why he's becoming a fan favorite in Athens. These guys all made an impact. Let me know if you think there should have been snubs, or if there were snubs. I don't know that there were necessarily any All-American snubs for Georgia. I kind of think they got those guys right, and they certainly got the freshman team right. But these guys getting the recognition that they deserve. Thanks for watching.